Hi, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today, Ventless Washer Dryer Combos, Convenience and Efficiency. I'm Joe Wachunas here, as always, with Brian Stewart, my teammate. And today's webinar is a co-produced webinar between Electrify Now, an all-volunteer organization promoting electrification as the quickest path to decarbonization and something that all of us can take an active part in achieving. Check us out at electrifynow.net. And also the Learn program, it's a San Diego-based workforce education and training program that is partnered with Electrify Now to offer free energy efficiency and electrification webinars. Please visit the Learn website for more information, www.sandiegolearn.com. So today we'll be talking about ventless washer dryer combos. We're excited about that. This is part of our series, the Go Electric. All year with the San Diego Learn program, we are exploring the benefits of electrification for homeowners, which include lower energy bills in many places, cleaner indoor air, and of course, less pollution outside, more comfort, and increased safety. So excited about today's topic as part of this Go Electric series. Brian, talk to us about what are these ventless washer dryers?
Well, first of all, why are we talking about washing and drying in the first place? A lot of people don't think about this, but laundry appliances use a significant amount of home energy. It can be as much as 8 to 10%. But there's new technologies that are available that most people are unfamiliar with, one of which we're going to be talking about today. But one of the things that makes these new generation of products use so much less energy are heat pumps for drying, which can help reduce energy by 30 to as much as 75%. And then these new combo units, which we'll be talking about today specifically, incorporate that technology and also have other conveniences that could potentially really revolutionize the way people interact with their machines, which is kind of cool. So both these things can reduce energy and water usage, which is pretty cool. A ventless dryer, just a combo unit, just so you understand what they are. They have different names, but typically they're called ventless. That's the kind of key feature that distinguishes them from a more conventional product, and that is because they have these heat pumps in them that don't require venting to the outside. But the units we're going to be talking about today they're single units. It's one product that it's a front-loading product, so it looks pretty much just like a conventional washer or dryer. Maybe they're slightly larger. They don't, as I mentioned, they don't need venting to the outside, which we'll talk about the advantages of that later. They do require a water drain. They have to have plumbing to them, just like any washer would. But they wash and dry in a single cycle. So that means basically you load it and then it goes through the wash cycle and then the dry cycle automatically. They use 120 volts, which is really interesting. We'll again talk more about the advantage of that in a minute. But obviously, we're used to needing 120 volt plug for the washer and 240 volts for the dryer. And then these things have either a high efficiency heat pump. Most of them are heat pumps, and we'll be talking about that. Some of them have condenser drying technology. We'll talk about the differences of those, but that's one of the things that makes these things really different than the combo units we've seen in the past.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about some of the advantages of these washer dryer combos. So obviously it's just one machine. And so you can think of, rather than having space for two machines, your washer and dryer, you could just go to one. And that, works especially well in multifamily buildings. That space saving can be key. The convenience is another, of course, advantage. You don't have to then transfer wet laundry from one machine to another. You put your laundry in one machine and it washes and dries. It seems like a dream come true. And then there's no downtime between washing and drying. We can ask our guests shortly, what is the average time between putting a load in the washer and then retrieving it once it's done to put in the dryer? But there's usually a delay. With this machine, there's no delay. And as Brian was saying, the 120 volts saves that panel capacity. This is key in homes with maybe a 100 amp electrical panel that are looking to completely electrify without upgrading their panel. This could be a way to use some of that 240 volt power that was powering a dryer before and use that energy to power an EV or for another electric appliance. So saving room on your panel is key. And then, of course,
Hey, Joe, sorry. It also, for those of you out there who might have a gas dryer at the
right.
moment, that's another thing that makes it easier to switch, because you're not going to need to run another electrical line in order to get off gas if that's something that you're interested in.
Right, and about 25% of homes have a gas dryer, so a really great option for those homes. And then probably the most important thing about these washer dryer combos is they use very low water, a low amount of water, which is great, especially in areas that have that are concerned with water usage and energy. I mean, we'll see in a second when we profile the washer dryer combos. They use around 100 kilowatt hours a year. That's really low, so they save a lot of energy compared to a typical electric resistance dryer. Anything else there, Brian, to add to those advantages?
No, I think that's good. And we'll talk more about these advantages with our panelists, our guests in a minute, but that's a kind of good top line, I think.
Great. So as for some disadvantages, these washer dryer combos are more expensive than most standalones. Although since we did this topic a year ago, we've seen prices come down dramatically from around $3,000 a year to, or excuse me, $3,000 for one of these units to about $2,000. We'll look at some prices. So more expensive, but prices have come down. They do have longer drying times. We'll get into that with our panelists, but a lot of times the entire load is about 2 hours. They have a smaller drum than a conventional dryer, so you might not be able to fit exactly everything in there. But we'll treat that with our panelists in just a second. We'll talk about lint management as well. There are some differences in how to handle lint with washer dryer combos, so that may be a disadvantage. And you can't process multiple loads in once. Folks might be used to washing a load and then drying another load at the same time. Obviously, you can't do that when everything is combined. Any other disadvantages, Brian, you want to highlight?
No, I think that last thing, it may just be, we have heard some people say, well, we have a large family and we're doing, we do multiple loads of laundry. And so this feels like it might slow you down. We'll talk more about that with our guests, but I think that's the key. I think for these multiple loads thing is if you're in a family that uses this machine a lot, that might be something you want to consider. But let's just talk a little bit about the models that are out there. There's basically 4 that are available today. There's one from Samsung, and we'll go through some of the key information here. All this on this chart, by the way, is going to be available. We'll put the link in the chat in a handout that we've got available for people, so you don't need to copy this down or whatever. But Samsung has a machine. LG, our guests today from GE, have a great machine that we'll be talking about. And then there's a 4th machine, which is different than the others in that it has condenser technology rather than heat pumps. And we'll talk about the differences there. It's a little lower cost, but it has some slightly less features than the other ones we'll talk about. I would draw your attention to a few things. I mean, the heat pump ones are virtually similar priced, a little bit under $2,000. The condenser one is cheaper. They're a little bit larger than you might be used to. Mostly it's height difference. They're a little taller than a conventional unit, but there's only one of these rather than 2 in wherever you're having them. This is what Joe was talking about, this remarkably low energy use per year. I think this translates to those little orange stickers you find on devices that'll say it's like $14 or $15 a year expected energy cost to run these things. So very low. They are Energy Star rated, which is great. We are showing Consumer Report scores here, and I want to just put a little asterisk by this because, and we'll talk to our panelists more about this. They do a real extensive rating, and there's lots of different dimensions. I didn't include them all. These are just a few of some of the ones I thought were more important. But what you'll see if you look at their ratings is that they get really good washing performance scores, really good noise scores for for drying and washing, although the condenser one apparently is noisy on the drying cycle. They typically get low scores for drying. And I think this is again, something we'll unpack a little bit with our guests, but this is a function of them taking slightly longer. And think about it for a minute, it sort of intuitively makes sense. These ventless heat pump dryers are using lower temperatures. And there's some real advantage to that. Energy savings, 1, Two, it's not going to fry your clothes, which is, the number one cause of damage for clothes. You might not know this is the heat that is applied to them in drying. So if you're comparing this to a dryer that uses high heat, it's going to take longer, which I think is partly why they get penalized from Consumer Reports on the drying scores. But we'll talk about the consumer reactions here as well, which just to give you some context, because that's the score. But when you actually look at what people say about these machines, you get a kind of an interesting kind of duality type of picture that we'll go into again with our panelists more. But first of all, look at Best Buy or Home Depot, where thousands of these machines are being purchased, and they generally speaking get really high scores, 4.5 to 5 stars. That's really good. If you Google these machines and look at YouTube videos, you're going to find some, oh my God, buyer beware type stuff. And you'll also find some rave reviews out there, even on the buyer beware ones, which typically are going to bring up either lint problems, which we'll talk about with our panelists, or drying time problems. You'll also get comments on those exact same YouTubes from people who watch them that say, hey, we have a machine, we've never had a problem, and we love it. So I guess want to be fair that there is commentary out there that is worried about drying times and lint buildup problems, but there's also just a lot of really positive reactions. So we're going to unpack a lot of that with our guests today, just because I think it's maybe too subtle of a topic to get into with just what you find on YouTube. But I'm really excited to introduce our guests. Now we have Alex James. He's the program director at GE Appliances. He's super experienced in engineering and technical program management, several years of work in this consumer goods industry. He is the program director of the clothes care laundry at GE Appliances, and he's really focused on this exact machine that we're going to be talking about, the GE Profile Ultra Fast Combo with ventless heat pump technology. Well, that's a mouthful, but that's what we're talking about today. And we also have with us Chris Neighbor. He's the senior director of product management at GE Appliances, and he's been again working on this GE product that we're going to be talking about, with tons of years of experience in engineering and leading technical teams at GE and also First Build. And he's worked kind of in a lot of different dimensions of product. So I think he's going to be a good person to have with us today: product development, research, and also quality. So all those things are super important to the consumer experience, which we'll be talking about. So thank you, Alex and Chris, for joining us today. I'm going to stop my sharing here and welcome you to our conversation.
Yeah, and we love the background too. Great setup, guys. Thanks for including that. And maybe as a starting question, talk to us about how GE was the first innovator in this space. Talk to us about the process for creating this the GE all-in-one washer dryer.
Yeah, I'll kick it off, and then I'm going to hand it over to Alex because he was here during that early development. But one of the things that is unique about our development of this product is that it was very much focused on taking an enabling technology like heat pumps and pairing it with a true consumer need for ease of doing laundry, efficiency overall, not just energy efficiency, but also efficiency of getting through that chore that a lot of people don't love. So the technical team did an amazing job of taking that technology and pairing that with that real consumer need, so that we could really find something that was scalable, not just focused on an energy efficient focus, but really looking at a broader need for our owners. But Alex, do you want to talk about how it kind of came about?
Absolutely. Yeah, we were really focused about 10, 15 years ago to try to develop a heat pump dryer and be first to the market with a full size that was energy efficient, but also comparable in dry performance to a vented dryer. And it took a lot of iterations and development, but we really couldn't find a good in within the market that met financial and performance, really time to dry needs for the consumer. However, about in 2019, we actually had a kind of a revelation where, what if we put this in one of our front load washers and pair that together and really address some of the pain points of having to transfer the load. And that way we could introduce heat pump technology within drying and washing together and really satisfy addressing a major pain point for all of us doing laundry nowadays. And that's really ultimately how this product came about. It was really interesting how we took it from the early days, 10 plus years ago, and a heat pump, took all of the learnings from that and really applied that to our awesome front load washer in order to make it our amazingly wildly successful ultra fast combo today.
Yeah, so I want to get to the popularity of these things you just made, but on the heat pump thing alone, so how long has heat pump technology been on the market for laundry?
For laundry, it's actually been out there multiple decades, quite honestly. It's just over in Europe and in Asia, those have been 24-inch heat pump dryers, have been more high end. It has not really translated over to the US market until maybe about 10 years ago. And even then, it was a very high end, very expensive, $2,000 to $3,000 or more. And it was really focused on energy, people that were really looking to be energy efficient and really had a tight space in order to put that kind of 24-inch wide product. Whereas in most U.S. Consumers nowadays want a full-size product that they can wash and dry large loads. So it never really took off here in the U.S. as quickly. So there was a bit of a time lag before it kind of made its way over here.
Yeah. Well, I understand these things are selling very well. Can you talk to us a little bit about just how the market's received these products? Specifically this ventless combo product?
Yeah, I think that if you look at any of the ratings and reviews and the number of reviews that we have on the product, it kind of speaks for itself, because if you look at a retailer, an online retailer, and look at the number of reviews that we have for this product, I think we're in the 4,000 to 5,000 review range, which is massive for a product that's just been out for just over a year now. And it's been well received, I think, because again, we focused on the masses, not just a smaller subset of people. And one of the common requests that we've gotten over the years, for probably since washing machine started, was, can you make it automatically transfer it from the washer into the dryer? And there have been solutions like combo units with condenser dryer technology out there, but it just wasn't satisfying that desire of, hey, I want to be able to do this without compromise. And that's what a product like this enables us to do, is really provide a solution that meets all those consumer needs without compromise.
I did hear in the first couple months this wash, you all were first to market, and the sales had exceeded however many previous years of heat pump dryers before. So that's great to see that scaling. Maybe let's talk about price before we dive into kind of the units and features. Just in general, we've seen, we were talking about, they're a little bit more expensive, but we have seen price declines over the last year as more competition has happened. Do you attribute those declines to competition, and how do they, how do you see price in relation to the having to buy 2 units, the washer and the dryer?
Yeah, so if you look at one of our combo units, when we set out on this kind of journey to develop this, the target was, let's take kind of a well-equipped front load pair and look at the price of that, and then put all that technology into a single unit with the target of kind of having that same price point, right? And that's what was accomplished. Now, over the last year or so, there has been kind of a reduction in price in the market, which is fantastic. Part of that is due to the adoption that we've seen. Ultimately, retail price is set by retailers, not by manufacturers, so they kind of use their own discretion to set price. But when we see adoption of a technology like this, it's very common to see prices start lowering, because you get economies of scale. You get, there's just a lot of market factors that can allow those prices to start coming down, which is great for us. It's great for everybody on the call, because it enables more of this technology to get out and improve, the energy footprint of a home, but also, expose more consumers to the possibilities with combos.
So is it, I mean, if you were buying like, I mean, I think of this product that you guys have built here as a kind of high-end price, the top of the line price, features wise, and we'll talk about smart and all these other things, but it has kind of all the features that you would want, or that's even available in the top of the line product. So if you compare this to your top of the line standalone washer set, what is the difference in price, would you say?
Yeah, they're very similar. So even at the, our high end front load pair, if you bought two of those products, it could be in that same range of $200 or $2,900 just at the kind of that starting price point for that high end product. But
yeah,
we've seen kind of the industry has been very promotional recently. So if you go out and look at a front load pair now, those prices have also come down over that same period. So, if you were looking for a comparably equipped front load pair, it's going to be right in that same price point.
Okay.
Perfect. Well, maybe let's get into the, some of the potential disadvantages and give you a chance to chat about those.
Hey, Joe, sorry, before we do that, can we just like, what is the difference between a heat pump and a condenser? Sorry, because I know, those four products we mentioned, three of them were heat pumps, one of them is condenser. What is the difference? They're both ventless. Sure. What's the difference?
Yeah, we'll start with the condenser washer dryer combos. Those have actually been around for a very long time. They're very, very common in most of the world, quite frankly. Europe, Asia, they're heavily used around there. All that is essentially it's a front load washing machine paired with a condensing system that leverages a aluminum plate, where on one side of the plate it's just recirculating hot, moist air, and on the other side of the plate it puts cold water in, and that offset in temperature will cause condensation to occur, and that gets funneled down to your pump and then pumped out. So it does require water during the dry cycle to force the condensation to occur, but it is not as efficient as heat pump technology. So cycles will get a lot shorter when you leverage a heat pump drying system, mainly because the transfer of heat is a lot more efficient, it's a lot quicker, and there's a lot more airflow involved. The airflow system is typically a little bit higher, and the transfer of temperature and moisture is a little bit more efficient. So for that reason, there's quite a bit of difference between the heat pump technology and condenser.
Does that mean that a condensing dryer is going to use more water than so is it cycling like fresh water in to keep the
That's
plate?
Correct. Oh. Yeah, so as it starts recirculating that hot, moist air on one side of that aluminum plate, the other side, it will every once in a while start dispensing cold water on that surface. So it will be using cold water during that cycle. I know some areas around the world don't have the ability or don't want to use water as frequently, so it's not as common. I know, you start talking West Coast, they don't want to use as much water, so they refrain from a lot of those condenser style combos.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. Yeah, that's really important because I think water scarcity is just a thing. So yeah.
And maybe talk, just building on that, talk to us about like the airflow and how did you, I have just a heat pump dryer and, we set it on a 90-minute cycle that works for our family, but you all have, your standard cycle is 2 hours for wash and dry. How did what was the design around that airflow and the heat pump in order to kind of reduce drying times to where you have it?
Sure. So we knew we had the wash cycle pretty down pat. We knew we had a product that we have currently been selling for a few years, and we didn't want to change any of the great performance that we had from our wash cycle. And as we adopt this heat pump technology, we wanted to make sure that we were not changing the habits or expectations of consumers, especially here in the US. We really wanted to make sure that we had no more than a 1 hour wash cycle and a 1 hour dry time. That way we could pair it to 2 hours. That seemed to resonate very well with consumers. Anything really north of 2 hours really was going to change their habits and their mindset for a product. So we really went out and said, okay, we're going to design around that 2 hour wash and dry time. And that's how we backed out and spec'd out our entire heat pump system, which relies very heavily on the high speed airflow and really sized out, which is why we've got a little bit extra height here so that we can make sure that not only are we washing and drying in a satisfactory amount of time, but we can do it with any load size, whether it's a couple shirts or you've got some 20 or 30 towels that you need to wash and dry. We're going to give you the experience that you expect.
Yeah, one that I'll add to that too, because it's a really important point. One of the key factors that kind of separates the ultra fast combo from some of the other products that are available is the ability to put a full wash load in and it'll dry the full wash load. Because a lot of people who have experience with combos in the past, whether it's condenser or even a heat pump combo, you know, they have this idea that, well, you can only fill it halfway full if you're going to use the dryer because the drum's smaller and there's constraints on that. The way the team approached this is they said, okay, what can we do in order to get the same dry performance and the size of a washing machine basket? And like Alex said, they sized the blower, they sized the heat exchanger, the compressor to really be appropriate for those large loads so that we did not have to change those behaviors.
Gotcha. Because that's one of the questions I have, because I mean, folks maybe out there, you might not have ever noticed this before, but if you've got a standalone washer dryer and this front load, let's just say, if you look inside the washing machine and then look inside the dryer, you'll notice the dryer is actually larger. The drum is larger. And so that's automatically going to get you more airflow because, you know, that same amount of products that you can jam into the washer is going to have more space when you transfer it into the dryer. Is it going to help, you know, get airflow around the clothes? In this case, you got one drum and it's the size of the washing machine. So just to clarify a little bit what the comments we're hearing here, but so you're saying that you are achieving additional airflow by basically pumping more air into the drum, it sounds like, during the drying cycle. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And the other key to our system is that we have kind of a sensor package inside the unit that is monitoring temperatures and humidities and controlling that compressor, controlling the sealed system with inverter technology so that we can get the optimal dry performance that we're looking for based on the load. So the system is it's a closed loop PID system that is monitoring what's going on during the cycle and really tuning it to get the best performance out of it. So, you know, we obviously people are used to using time dry. I think it was mentioned earlier on the call. What we want to encourage owners to do with this product is, hey, let it do its thing, because it is constantly monitoring that load and optimizing for what's going on, the kind of the conditions that are active in the unit. And that allows us to get those fantastic dry times. It's the high speed air with the sealed system that's sized for large loads to give us that consistent performance.
Gotcha.
So one of the, lint came up as a possible problem area. Talk to us about the, lint management with this system, and any tips for folks. What do they have to do differently than their typical dryer?
Yeah, that's a great question, because, a lot of people are used to the old, lint trap on their dryer. They clean that out between loads. And the experience is similar on this unit, but it is a little nuanced because for a couple of reasons. One, we have a dual stage lint filter to really try and have a very efficient lint capturing process. So there is a little bit of a different behavior. So, at the end of every cycle, every 1 to 5 cycles, you take the lint filter out. It's located right here, right by the control. So a consumer would take that out and they can just wipe off the lint like they normally do, put it back in. But then around every 50 cycles, every couple months, there's an alert that'll pop up on the screen and it says clean the dual stage lint filter. And there's a second lint filter on our unit that is kind of a secondary filter. You may be used to seeing something like this on an air purifier, And when consumers learn that they need to do that, they see just consistent performance throughout the life of the product. A lot of consumers are a little bit worried about lint. Because they've heard, hey, these all-in-one units, you have to worry about lint or be concerned about it. But again, the way that we've sized this system, if there's a little bit of lint that bypasses and gets on the heating coil or the evaporator condenser coils, we've sized everything to take that into account. So because of the speed of the air, the way that we're doing the heat transfer, as long as our owners are taking care of that filter, the main primary filter and the secondary filter, they're going to get amazing performance through the life of the product.
And somebody's asking about that in the chat. It's a newish product, and so they're worried about longevity. Can you talk about warranties and help assuage any concerns in that regard?
Yeah, absolutely. That is completely understandable. And one of the approaches we've taken with this, because of it's new to the market, and we understand those concerns. We have 1 year full warranty on the product, just like we do with all GE profile products. We have a 10-year warranty on the motor, which is, again, something that we've offered on washing machines for years with confidence. But we also have a 5-year parts warranty on the whole sealed system. So the whole drying system is covered for 5 years as well. The beautiful thing about it is, while putting this technology in a dryer in a combo unit is new for the American market, we've been making refrigerators, sealed systems forever. And we just have a depth of knowledge that allows us to design these systems to be robust. So we haven't, the concerns are understandable because it is new technology. But Alex mentioned it earlier, we literally took our existing washing machine from here down, and we're using that system that's tested and proven. And then we're adding on the heat pump technology to the top of it, which is all located right on the top.
Gotcha. Hey, let's talk about the ventless functionality for a little bit, because can you guys I'd like to hear you guys explain why that's an advantage. I mean, we know from the energy use standpoint, everything great. I think we've covered that, but from there's other physical advantages to that, not having to punch a hole in your wall, et cetera. And also, some people have this question about whether the ventless technology is going to affect the temperature in the room where you're operating this product. Can you speak to both those things?
Yeah, I'll take this one. So the ventless piece of it really gives flexibility, right? One thing that we've seen, a trend that we've seen, is people that are aging in place may have an older home with laundry in the basement, and they have a desire to move it up to the main floor. It's great until you realize that with a traditional dryer, you need some way to get that heat out of the house, and running a new duct after the home's been constructed can be a challenge. This allows you to put the unit really anywhere, as long as you have water in a drain and 120 volts. So that's a huge advantage just for flexibility in homes that have already been constructed. It also allows you to put 2 combo units in the place of an old laundry pair if you chose to, and not worry about a venting constraint. So there's obviously energy savings. You're not pushing conditioned air out of the home. And then there's the question, like, hey, if I have a dryer running and it's not vented, where does all the heat go, right? So that's a common question. The ultra-fast combo is a sealed system, so we're basically heating up using the compressor. We're heating up a set of fins, so that when air flows across those fins, it heats up. It moves it into the dryer at that point. And then it runs back up and through a cold coil, and it condenses the water out, and then it passes back through the hot coil. So basically what we're doing is we have a closed system that is just running the air inside the unit constantly through that closed system. So all the heat that is being generated is basically held inside the unit during the dry cycle. It's moving it into the water that's in the close and vaporizing that, and then running that down your drain. like any appliance that's running, there's going to be a small amount of heat that's generated just because of efficiencies.
Motors and things.
But that's really it. So,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah, because I think a lot of people are used to this idea that with a heat pump water heater, for example, it's harvesting energy from your air and transferring that to the water, and then that water gets sent somewhere else. So it's not a closed loop system. But whereas what you're talking about is closed loop system, so it's not going to really affect the local environment. That's helpful. Thank you.
Great. I think we got time for one or two more questions. I do want to talk, there's a lot of smart technology in this machine. Talk to us about how that can change people's laundry habits. What are some of these? How does having a smart washer dryer combo help folks and help the grid?
So what I tell people, the two things that they need to do when they buy this machine, the first thing they need to do is connect it to Smart HQ, which is our app that serves all of our GE appliances. The second one is to learn how to, maintain their lint filter, but so another plug on that. But the smart features are amazingly empowering on a device like this, on a unit like this, because we've now kind of decoupled you from your laundry. You put it in, to start it, you can come back and just grab it when it's done. So through the app, we're able to send notifications so people can check in on their laundry without having to go check on it. We also are working on some features that would allow you to see the energy that's being consumed by the appliance. So if you're trying to do energy balancing in your home or understand what your loads are, then the connected technology will be allowing for that in the future. There's obviously updates that we're able to send to the unit. People are used to this on TVs, phones, cars these days. So we've been able to deploy new cycles that improve the ownership experience. We're able to do diagnostics as well. So if we do have an owner that's having an issue, we can remotely diagnose what might be going on with that unit. So there really is a lot of benefit from a user standpoint when you're using your appliance, but then there's also benefit in those cases where you may need some assistance or diagnostics to understand what might be going on.
Yeah, and not to mention you could program the dryer to run on times where electricity costs less and is better for the grid.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a mention of that, earlier, like how behavior's changed. And, on the units that are connected, we're able to see when cycles are run, and we can see a distinct difference in people's habits of using a traditional washer and dryer versus this combo. And what we're seeing is traditionally there would be spikes on the weekends where people would be running more loads on Saturdays and Sundays. Now what we're seeing is that's leveling out through the week, because you can literally, be leaving for work, throw a load in, and when you come home from work, it's dry and ready. So we are seeing a big shift in those habits, which then kind of addresses some of the constraints people think, hey, is this going to fit into my lifestyle? It may not fit into the way that, exactly the way that you were doing laundry before, but once you experience the freedom you get by having a combo unit, it has an opportunity to just change the way you're doing laundry.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, maybe that's a good place to wrap up. I know we haven't answered all the questions out there, but I think we've hit most of the big ones. Joe, any last thoughts or questions?
Just a thanks so much, Alex and Chris, for a fantastic webinar. Thanks for bringing this product to market. Really exciting, and excited to see how the washer dryer combo market continues to develop.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
Great. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you at our next one. If you have any questions, reach out to Brian or I at Electrify Now. As we say every webinar, good luck on your electrification projects. We'll see you soon.